Thank you everybody for coming. My name is Lisa Daniel and this is my work. I'm a painter, an abstract painter, and this particular work is called Amethyst Dream. And how I paint is I pour on the floor. So I have a long, narrow studio, kind of like a bowling alley shape, and then I have like 5 or 6 paintings at a time, about this size, about 5 or 6 paintings on the floor. And I mix acrylic and water, and sometimes I have some additives in there as well, either in the bucket that I mix with, or I pour it on this canvas first and then mix and manipulate it. And the beauty about pouring is I can have all 5 or 6 paintings on the floor and work all of them simultaneously and control them. This is the other trick about pouring paint that people don't realize. Everything is controlled. Absolutely everything is controlled. It's supposed to look spontaneous and it's supposed to look messy and fun and splash and that whole, which it is, but it is very thought out and considerate. I start every single painting with a composition and a palette in mind. Everything is thought out, which sometimes doesn't always work. If I have 5 or 6 paintings and I have really big pours and I have to leave the studio for whatever reason, I come back and sometimes the paint doesn't go where I want it to go. I use wooden like wedges. So I've got like a thick to thin wedge and I control it sticking under the painting. Otherwise, when you pour, all it does is go into the center. So that doesn't work very well if I want the painting to make a curve or to do something different. So I literally have to control it and watch it until I know it's going to be still. So if I can't do that, sometimes I leave and I come back and half the paint's on the floor, which is fine. I just have to redo it or fix it, which is again the beauty of acrylic. I mean, you can just paint over it and do layers, which is exactly what I do. Some of these paintings that I make are, you know, maybe 2 or 3 layers in one and maybe 100 in another corner. It just depends on the composition and the painting and how it's going. And again, the materials I use, like some of this stuff, this kind of bumpy material, there's suppliers, Gold Acrylic makes some really cool additives. This is pumice gel, and it is literally made from volcanic pumice material, and it creates this really bumpy kind of surface. There's all kinds of mediums that I use as well. There's this right here, there's it's called iridescent medium. So any medium or any paint that you have, you can add this medium into, and it creates this really interesting iridescent color. So lots of additives, lots of neat things to play with. It's just a constant with me exploring with the with materials. That's the best part. My ideas come from generally nature. So where I get my compositions is Hubble telescope. I really, really love those when this first came out. Now, of course, there's James Webb, which is even better than the Hubble. So that's another very interesting thing. So I get my ideas from that, some composition. Again, you know, I'm working with transparency and depth. That's kind of what I play with. And those images really have that in them. So I get a lot of ideas from that. Also from nature, clouds, the sky, storms, water, anything like that. I have in my studio, I have a notebook, stack of notebooks that are all full of just very simple composition ideas and thoughts written down on paper. It's nice to have those images or those ideas and thoughts at the ready. So it's just a constant for me. Those notebooks, they also have maybe like 2 or 3 lines in them. It's just an indication that will just tell me what that composition is. And that's the beauty about abstraction that a lot of people don't realize. Not only are they surprised that this is thought out and considerate, that this is made to look like this, is that abstraction comes from something. It is not just a random thought in your head. So abstraction comes from something, and sometimes that concept is a little difficult for people to grasp. So they come in the studio and they want to see, well, is it a leg? Is it a, they want to try to identify with it. And I really try to teach people that you don't need to see anything in there. You don't need to identify anything necessarily if you choose not to. It's okay. Just, do you like the color? Do you like the shape? Is there anything in there that you like? And I try to help people see a little bit differently in art, and what they can see in the abstract. So. I've been recently working with some water slide decals, which this doesn't have any on, which is also an interesting process, because the water slide decals are kind of like the kids' tattoos that they put on with water and you peel it off. Well, it's a similar idea. So if I put an image over here, I could put like a big flower here, and it would have that texture underneath it. So I'm playing with that idea as well. So that's very interesting, because that does a lot of the push-play thing with the transparency. And paper. I'm also working with paper and putting some medium on it and crunching it up and making layers and doing different things. Always trying to break the surface somehow, some way with texture. So. Yeah.
Is that kind of like a decal idea?
Yeah, very similar. And I've tried a couple different brands. Some work better than others. Sometimes when I put too much water on it, the image literally floats and breaks apart, which can be really cool. So that's, the nice thing about painting this way, that experimenting, you find neat things that happen like that. I know that when I use ultramarine blue and golden, it's called flow release, and I drop it into the blue, it spreads like a brain. It looks like a brain. It just makes this wild pattern. It just it breaks the pigment up, the vehicle in there, everything. It just does this really wild effect. And so once you learn how to do that with some of these products, it makes it great, because then you can just totally do it and repeat it. So, yeah.
So do you engage plastic film in your process?
I've tried some of that, yes. Doesn't always work the way I want it. It becomes too brittle. It's my experience, and it could be just the way that I'm experimenting with it. I do make acrylic skins. So I lay down on the studio floor plastic garbage bag, and then I pour some medium on the floor and make funny shapes with it. And then when it dries, I peel it off and then slap it on a painting. And that's interesting. Yeah, separate it, peel it off, and put it on. And it's really fascinating. The problem is sometimes it doesn't dry all the way, and then it creates a little bit of a film. And so I don't want that. I want it clear, because I want to be able to see what's underneath it. Because again, that's transparency and depth is what I like to play with. So, yeah. I like materials of all different shapes and forms, and try and experiment and talk to other artists and try and get other ideas and how they do things too. So. All right. Any other questions? You do? Fire away. Fire away.
Okay. So in this particular painting,
yes.
Was the canvas black to start with, or was that?
I gessoed over. It was white. It was pre-gessoed white, and I covered it with black. Yeah, I use black gesso, gold gesso. There's a rust color gesso. The problem is they've stopped making a lot of those colors now in the big gallon sizes, which obviously that's what I have, bigger canvases. The biggest canvas I can paint on in my studio right now is 6 foot. So, and I have one of those going right now. Well, and I got to be able to physically get to them. I'm short. I can't always get to the middle, so I got to be careful. Yeah, something, right? Yeah. Yeah, but I do like to play with the background. I do like to play with the gesso so that I can get different colors. And, well, of course, that changes the color on the canvas, too. So it makes it pop. Yeah. Gold is actually one of my favorites, and I'm having a hard time getting it. So, and I could use just regular acrylic as well, but the gesso just is more opaque. So. Did you have a question? I wasn't sure. I can't tell, your mask is on. I can't tell whether you were trying to say something. Yeah.
tell us what it is.
Yeah, the shapes and what it is, yeah. And that's I get a lot of ideas from that, really, a lot of those. So.
I think the layering gives it the space.
Yep, which is why I like the transparency thing, because you can build that up. Right. Yeah, and you know, the tricky part is if I see something that I really like, and I don't want to mess it up, it's risky, right? It's like, well, I could cover it up, but if I do a really big pour, something's going to happen to it, you know, and I'm going to lose it. And it's like, well, maybe it'll be better.
You have to learn not to love your work.
And that's exactly what happens. It's like, it's just a painting. It's just a painting. I can recreate it close enough, you know, I can do it again. It's no big deal. So, yeah. Yeah, and again, you know, acrylic, that's the easy thing, you know. As much as I get impatient with acrylic and I want it to dry really quickly, it's a fast drying paint, but I just want to keep moving, you know, because I have all these ideas in my head I want to get down. So, yeah.
I may have missed this. Did you say you utilize acrylic medium?
Yes, all different kinds of mediums, yeah. They've got some that are real thick, like a paste, like so you can paint impasto if you choose. I kind of go with, yeah, and they dry clear. Some of them don't. You have to be careful which ones. So I don't like to use those necessarily that still have color to them. But I like the clear again, trying to get that layered look in there. But there's one called Black Lava that Liquitex makes, and it looks milky and like pepper. And then when it dries, the milkiness goes away and it's totally sheer. And it looks like you've just put pepper on the canvas. It's absolutely fabulous. Creates a wonderful texture.
Are you familiar with the material called Decals?
No. No.
PLEX. It's made by Roman Ponce.
Okay.
Are you familiar with that?
No. This is why I like talking to artists. This is why you get all these great ideas. Yeah.
Roman Ponce was, I don't know if it was still in operation, they were a manufacturer of polymer materials.
Oh, there you go.
And you could usually get samples from them.
Perfect.
And you could also get gallons at a reasonable price.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, I will have to look into that. Okay, I'll have to look into that. All the time looking for different ways to try and get a large amount of material because art supplies are just so expensive, and if I have to buy it by the pint or the quart, it's going to cost me a fortune. So, and as you can tell, you know, I splash a lot. Some of the paint obviously doesn't get onto the canvas, which is why I love my studio space. It's very industrial. It doesn't matter if I pour on the floor and on the walls and whatever, it doesn't matter. It's great. It's a very nice space. So, yes. All right, if there's no more questions, I'll invite you to the studio. Anybody can come anytime. You can go to my website at pouridon.studio or contact Jennifer at the gallery here. And I will be on the studio tours in October. For Tacoma Arts Month, October 15th and 16th. So you're welcome to come down and actually see where I make the art. All right, thank you.